Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today we're going to be going over every single LEGO Summer 2021 set that was revealed. Now all of this information is being received from Instagram and from a variety of accounts, so I'll be sure to link as many as I can where I saw any of this information being shared, and I will be going through every theme in alphabetical order, and I will be timestamping all of these parts of the video as well, so if you want to skip to a particular theme, then feel free to do so. If you only have an interest in, let's say, Ninjago, you can just skip to that part in the video because it will be later on, of course, if I am going in this alphabetical order here. But I hope you do enjoy the video, and we're going to go through all of the information that we have thus far, and be sure to let me know if I missed anything and let me know your thoughts as well on all of these sets. But without further ado, let's get straight into it here with the first set. Alright, so to get started here, we're going to begin with the Adidas set here, and this one is not a part of a particular theme. You could consider it, I suppose, an Adidas sort of sub-theme here, but this one's going to include 731 pieces, and I think it's definitely going to be an interesting set, because I feel like we could get one of two things here. We could either get maybe a LEGO sort of like Adidas shoe replica, or we could wind up getting an Adidas store as a set here, which is honestly what I would lean more towards, because then you can get some interesting minifigures as well with maybe some Adidas uniforms on them and just some really cool sort of builds as well with that. I think if they just make a shoe sort of replica in LEGO, that's going to be a little bit more boring in my opinion at least, but be sure to let me know what you would like to see from this, and that's all I have to say for the Adidas set. Now the next theme that we're going to be going over here is Lego City, and there are plenty of sets to go over for this theme here, so we're going to get straight into it. I'm not going to read all of these set numbers here because I feel like that's going to sound very repetitive, but I will read out the set names and the piece counts as well and give you my quick thoughts on each of these sets. So the first one that we have is the Stunt Pack. This one's going to include 170 pieces. Then we have the Stunt Show Truck. This one's going to include 418 pieces. Then we have a Stunt Show Area, which will include 668 pieces, and for those first three, they seem to be very stunt themed. I think a majority of these are, but I think it's definitely pretty interesting to kind of have that for City. I'm interested to see what sort of stunt vehicles we wind up getting within these sets and the minifigure designs as well. Then we move on to the Wheelie Stunt Bike. This one will include 14 pieces. Then we have the Demolition Stunt Bike, which will include 12 pieces. Then we've got the Rocket Stunt Bike, which will include 14, and all three of those seem to be of a similar piece count, so it seems like those will just be the stunt bikes on their own, and those are honestly very small piece counts there. I don't have the prices, but I am very curious to find out what those are going to retail for, if they're going to be, because they seem like even smaller than poly bags, so I'm not sure how that's going to turn out or what the pricing is going to be with that, or just how they're going to wind up looking, but I'm definitely pretty interested to find out. Then the next one that we have is the Stunt Competition. This one will include 73 pieces. Then we've got the Wildlife Rescue ATV, which will include 74 pieces. Then we move on to the Wildlife Rescue Off-Roader, which will include 157 pieces. Then we have the Wildlife Rescue Operation, which will include 525 pieces. And we had three wildlife sets there, and I think those are going to be pretty interesting. I don't know if it's anything too exciting, at least for me personally. I don't collect a lot of City, but I am interested to see the designs of some of these vehicles here and just kind of what animals we'll wind up getting in these wildlife sets, because it would be interesting to get some new molds or some new colorings and printings for some previous animals that we've already received, so I'm interested to find out about that. Then we have an advent calendar, of course, as usual. This one will include 349 pieces. Then we have a selfie stunt bike, and this one's definitely quite interesting. I don't really know what that means by selfie stunt bike. Are they like taking a selfie as they're riding the bike? But nonetheless, it's going to include 14 pieces. Once again, another small stunt bike. Then we have a chicken stunt bike, and it just gets weirder from here on, and that one is going to include 10 pieces. I don't know what that's going to entail, or at least I guess I do. It's going to have a chicken. I wonder if the person will be in a chicken suit or if it'll be a chicken riding the stunt bike, but nonetheless, it's going to definitely be pretty interesting. Then we have a fire stunt bike as the final city set here, and this one will include 11 pieces, and it would be cool to kind of have a stunt bike that can kind of ride through maybe a hoop of fire. I think that would be interesting to see, but I'm honestly not too sure what it will wind up being or what that entails, but definitely a very interesting city lineup here for the summer wave. You got a lot of stunt stuff, and then you have some wildlife things as well, so a pretty good combination there, and I'm very interested to find out about the stunt bike sets and kind of see what those entail, but overall, I would say it's a pretty strong wave for city. Now the next theme that we have here is for creator, and for this one I have eliminated 2 sets from this because they're going to be releasing in March, so I didn't want to include them here because they're not specifically for the summer wave, but I still might just put them on screen here just for a second so you can have a look at those, but we're going to mainly go over these sets here, so let's get started with the Space Shuttle Adventure. This one's going to retail for $49.99, and then this one will include 486 pieces, and just so you know as well, these prices are all going to be in USD. I know it's the first time we're saying the price here, the first time we have the price, but just so you know, I haven't converted it into anything else. You can feel free to do so, of course, for whatever your currency is, but I didn't want to do it for every single set because we have a ton of sets to go over, so that would have taken quite a while, but nonetheless, I think that one sounds kind of interesting. I don't get too excited over the space stuff just because I feel like we get so much of it, and this doesn't sound like anything amazing, but still, it definitely could wind up being interesting once we see it revealed. Then we've got a Ferris wheel set which will retail for $99.99 and include 1,002 pieces, and this is one that I am actually quite interested in. I'm really excited that we're getting a new Ferris wheel build here, and I think this could definitely be something really cool, so I'm interested to find out, and I think that it's great that they're giving it such a high piece count because I feel like then it will fit in really well and feel uncompromised or it won't feel held down by a low piece count. I think they're giving it the appreciation that it deserves here, so I'll be interested to see what that turns out to look like, and if it'll be a 3-in-1 as well, which I assume it would be, so I'll be interested to see what other builds there are as well. Then the next one that we have is probably one of the ones that I'm honestly the most excited for. This is a medieval castle. This one's going to retail for also $99.99, and this is super exciting. Of course, we haven't really seen too many castle sets in lately for Lego, so I'm very interested to see what they do with this and what sort of style they wind up going with. Of course, they could kind of go with a more classic sort of castle style, or they could go with a more updated one where maybe they implement some new sort of things into it. I'm not sure what it's going to wind up being or what the alternate builds could wind up being as well for this set, but it's definitely really interesting. And then the last 2 that we have here, I'm just going to combine them together, are a crocodile and then a fishbowl set. I think I'm definitely more interested in the fishbowl one. We don't have a price point or a piece count for that, but I'm very interested to see what sort of size we're talking about for a fishbowl, because this could wind up being a pretty large set if you have a large scale one, depending on what sort of fish you have in the bowl. I think that's definitely going to be quite interesting. And then the crocodile doesn't seem like anything too exciting, but I suppose if you're a fan of crocodiles, then you might want to pick that up when it's revealed. But I'd say overall it's a really strong creator wave, and I'm most excited for the medieval castle and the Ferris wheel. The next theme that we have here is going to be from DC Superheroes, and this one is going to include some comic book based sets and then also some film based sets as well, and I'll explain that as we go through here. So as you can see listed here, the first 3 sets are listed as sets from the new film, The Batman, of course, starring Robert Pattinson, and this is because it seems to be the theory going around that these 3 sets are going to be kind of tied in with that film, and I know some people are a little bit hesitant with this information because of course there's some rumors saying that that film could wind up being rated R, and of course Lego doesn't really do a lot of rated R sort of things in their Lego sets, so there is potential that this might not wind up coming true, but it seems to be the popular rumor here, so I wanted to mention it and kind of just analyze that. So the first 3, as you can see, seem to be at the moment that there's theorized to be from the Batman film, and those are going to cost $14.99 for the first one, then $39.99, and then $69.99 for that third one, and I'm definitely quite interested to see what sort of designs we get there. If they are from the film, then I'm super excited because hopefully we get a new cowl piece for Robert Pattinson's version of Batman, and then also some new villains as well. I think that could definitely be quite interesting, including the Riddler, and then also Catwoman as well. Think that would be really cool. Penguin also, I suppose, by Colin Farrell. So there are quite a few possibilities here. I'm definitely quite interested, and if I had to take some more guesses, I would assume the $40 one might wind up being a Batmobile, the $70 one maybe a Batcave of some sort or something like that, and then the $15 one I would assume is just maybe a bike set or something of that sort. Those would be my guesses if I'm just going by kind of standard superhero rules here with what we sort of see with most superhero waves. And then the next set that we have here is set number 76239, and I only read the set number there because that's the only piece of information that we have for this one. We don't have any other info on what the set name is or what it's going to be, so who knows about that one. I'm not even going to bother trying to guess. And then the last one that we have here is probably the most exciting one, and this is set number 76240, and this one will be an 18 plus set and is rumored to be over $200, so it is going to be a large scale superhero set. So I'm really hoping for something similar to maybe like a GCPD. That would be really cool to sort of see, or maybe a Wayne Manor set, something of that sort, maybe even something else like the Daily Planet building. I think that could be really cool to wind up seeing. I'm not sure, there's so many possibilities. A Hall of Justice, I think that would be absolutely amazing to see. I kind of want them to kind of like branch out from their bubble of only doing Batman sets, so I think it would be cool to see more than that. But also I have a feeling in my stomach that we're probably going to wind up getting something connected closely to Batman, so who knows what it might wind up being, but I am excited nonetheless, and I'm curious to find out about all of these sets. Alright, now we're going to move on to LEGO Friends here, and this theme has one of the largest summer waves that we've seen, so there are quite a few sets to go over here, and I honestly don't have too much to say about a majority of them just because I don't really collect LEGO Friends, but if you do collect it, be sure to let me know your thoughts on these sets, and then we can have a discussion, and I can probably learn a bit more about some of these sets and the characters as well. But the first one that we have is a Horse Training and Trailer. This one will be a 4+ set and include 148 pieces. Then we have Olivia's Gaming Cube, which will include 64 pieces. We have Emma's Fashion Cube, which will include 58 pieces. Then we have Mia's Soccer Cube, which will include 56 pieces. Then we've got Stephanie's Ballet Cube. We have Andrea's Swimming Cube, and the Ballet Cube will include 59 pieces, and so will the Swimming Cube. And those are all of the cubes right there, and then the horse training as well. And I know that sounds probably a bit repetitive there with all of the cubes, but I am interested to see a few of them, including the Gaming Cube and probably the Swimming Cube. I'm actually quite interested how they're going to implement that into a cube, so I'm very curious to see that. And then the horse training will probably be pretty cool as well. I'm interested to see the horse mold that we wind up getting, if there will be any new printing on that. Then if we move on, we have a Forest Waterfall, which is going to include 93 pieces, which is actually pretty surprising, the piece count there, how small it is considering it's a full-on waterfall, but I'll be interested to see how they kind of scale that down and make it to a more manageable size. Then we have a Forest House, which is going to include 326 pieces, and this one's definitely quite interesting as well. I'll be curious to see how they kind of like combine the sort of like urban design of a house and then put like a forest kind of over top of it. I wonder if we're going to get like a worn down house where like vines are growing on it and things like that. I'm not too sure how it's going to wind up coming out, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting. Then we get a Forest Camper Van and Sailboat, which will include 487 pieces, and that one seems interesting as well. I'm curious to see the sailboat build, and then I'm sure the camper van will be pretty standard as usual. Then we get a pretty exciting one here, which is a Heart Lake City School. This one's going to include 605 pieces, and I hope that it feels like a very complete school build. I know with the piece count there, it might be difficult to do, but I hope it isn't too much of a facade build, because I always hate it when we have that, because it always feels like we want more than that, but then we just wind up being disappointed. So I hope it's something more impressive than what it previously would have been. And then we have a Forest Horseback Riding Center, which will include 511 pieces, once again going with that horse theme there, and I think that one's bound to be pretty interesting as well. Then we get a Heart Lake City Grand Hotel, which will include 1,308 pieces, making it the largest set for this wave here, and this one's definitely going to be pretty interesting. I'm curious to see once again how this hotel build is going to be. I would love to have a build where you can actually close it like a dollhouse sort of style, but I kind of have a feeling we're not going to get something like that, and it'll be similar to like the previous other sets we've gotten from friends that are of a similar scale. So I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but I'm sure I will wind up being a little bit disappointed, but who knows, they could wind up surprising us as well. Then we have a Magical Funfair roller coaster, which will include 974 pieces, and I'm honestly very excited for this one. I love roller coaster builds in Lego, and I think this is definitely has the potential to be a really cool build, so I'm interested to see how that turns out. Then we have a Magical Acrobatic set, which will include 233 pieces. Then we've got a Magical Funfair stalls, which are going to include 361 pieces, which I am very excited for this. It seems like we're almost building a kind of like circus is what I would kind of compare it to. I know it's like a fun fair as well, but kind of a combination of both of them is what I would kind of compare it to, and I think it definitely sounds very interesting and really curious to see the stall builds that they're going to have. I really want to find out what those are going to look like. Then we have a Magical Caravan, which is going to include 348 pieces, and I'm really interested to find out how they're going to make a caravan into a magical sort of build, so I'll be interested to see the final product for that. Then we have a Magical Ferris Wheel and Slide, which will include 545 pieces, and this is bound to be very interesting as well. Once again, getting another Ferris wheel build, so I love seeing that, and then a slide as well, so I'll be very interested to see what those look like and how large they're going to be as well, considering the piece count here. And then the last set that we have here for friends is going to be an advent calendar here, which will include 370 pieces. Of course, not much you can say about that, but I would say overall friends has a very strong wave here for the summer. I think that there's some really cool builds here for sure, and definitely a lot of cool possibilities as well with the school, the hotel, the roller coaster, the fun fair stuff. I think it's all going to wind up being really interesting, and I'm very curious to find out what the builds are going to look like. Moving on here, we're going to get into the Lego Harry Potter theme here, and we have 5 sets to go over for this wave, and those include sets number 76386, which is going to retail for $19.99 USD and include 217 pieces. Then we've got set number 76387, which will retail for $39.99 USD and then include 397 pieces. Then we have set number 76388, which is going to retail for $79.99 and include 851 pieces. Then we've got set number 76389, which will retail for $129.99 and include 1,176 pieces. And then we have the final one here, which is set number 76390, which will include $39.99 and include 274 pieces. And I'm sorry for all of those numbers that I just had to go over there. I just wanted to get through it, so now we can kind of discuss my thoughts on what these sets could wind up being. So I'm pretty sure for this wave, they're supposed to be basing these sets off of Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. So I'm assuming the largest set here, the $129.99 one, is probably going to be a Hogwarts extension. That's what I would wind up guessing for this, and maybe some sort of final battle will be taking place with this one. So that's what my main sort of guess would be here. And then for the other sets, it's honestly very hard to say what these could wind up being, but I'm very interested to find out what sort of characters we're going to have in these sets and what builds as well are going to be included. I know there's quite a few that I would like to see, but it's very hard to make like accurate sort of speculations here because we know basically nothing other than the numbers here of the piece counts, the prices, and things like that don't really tell us too much, but I'm definitely interested to find out eventually what we're going to be getting in these sets. Now we move on here to the next theme, and that is going to be Jurassic World, and for this one we have 4 sets here, and these are going to include set number 76939, which is going to be a 4+ set and include 129 pieces. Then we have set number 76940, which will include 198 pieces. Then we've got 76941, which is going to include 240 pieces. And then we have set number 76942, which is going to include 308 pieces. And And for this wave, I honestly don't know what it's going to be based on. Is it going to be based on the new Jurassic World movie that is going to be releasing, which is the Jurassic World Dominion movie, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. I'm not sure of the exact title, but I think that's what it is. Or is this going to be based off of like some of their animated stuff that they've done for Jurassic World in like the Lego format? So I'm not sure what they're going to kind of be covering here. It kind of depends on when the movie is going to be releasing, and I'm not sure if it's going to be delayed or when it's really supposed to come out. So there's not too much I can say about this. I'm just really hoping, of course, for some really cool dinosaur molds and then some really great minifigures as well with some cool builds to go along with it. So there isn't too much specifically that I can say, but I'm definitely eager to find out what these sets are going to be. Alright, now we're moving on to the Lego Marvel theme here, and this one is something very exciting. I even did a completely separate video on this when the news was initially announced, but since then we've gotten even more set reveals here, so that's why I also wanted to include all of this in a comprehensive video here. But to start off at the top here, you can see what is arguably the most exciting reveal for Marvel, and this is set number 71031, the CMF series that we are going to be getting, of course, and this is just awesome. I am so excited for the possibilities here of what we can wind up getting from a Marvel CMF series. There are so many possibilities here, and I have seen people kind of debating, over myself included as well, if this is going to be a comic-based series or if it's going to be an MCU one or if it's going to be a mixture of sorts, but it seems to be leaning towards being an MCU series, because if you look at the listing of this set on the website that it's coming from, you can see that on the properties section it says that it's Disney and Marvel. So it seems like Disney, whenever they're affiliated with Marvel, it's to do with the films and the MCU and not really the comic book side of it. So it seems like we're leaning more towards it being an MCU series, which I would of course have no issues with. I mean, there's a ton of MCU films that we haven't gotten Lego sets for, and I would be super excited to see some of the figures from those. So I'm really interested to see what they do with this, and especially considering it's probably going to be a 12 minifigure series, they're going to be a little bit more limited as to what they can choose, so they really got to make each figure count. So I think it would work really well for the MCU, because if you go into the comics, there's so many characters that you can choose from. It's almost a bit overwhelming, and you're probably going to wind up disappointing quite a few fans. But even though the MCU is very large, I feel like you can pinpoint it down to some fan favorite characters that people have been wanting for quite a while, and then you can just put those ones in the series, because I'm sure we're going to get an Iron Man suit, we're going to probably get a version of Spider-Man, we're going to get stuff like that are like your standard choices there and your popular characters, but then you can save a few spaces for some more obscure characters as well. So I think it's kind of good to sort of have a good balance there, but I'm definitely very interested to find out what's going to be in this CMF series. And then if we move on here, the two next sets that we have here are both apparently going to be from the new film releasing, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and these are going to retail for $29.99 and then $39.99. And for both of these, it seems to be the popular rumor that these are going to be like kind of related to that film that's releasing. We don't have any official confirmation on that, but it seems to be the very like popular rumor and theory that is going around. So that's why I wanted to put it here, just so that you're aware. I don't have too many guesses as to what these sets are going to entail, because of course we haven't really seen anything from that film other than the logo itself, so there isn't too much to kind of speculate about to do with that. Then the next sets that we have here are a bunch of set numbers here, which I'm not going to read all of them because I don't want to bore you to death, and I'm also just not even really going to go over the prices here. I mean, there's so much to kind of cover here. I mean, I'll cover briefly, like, as you can see, the next two that we have are both going to be $19.99 sets here. I don't have too much to say about that. I'm sure there's going to be some cool minifigures in the sets, but I don't know what they'll possibly be from, if it'll be Spider-Man sets, Avengers sets, or if it'll be MCU-based sets. Who really knows what we're going to wind up receiving. Then the next one that we have will retail for $39.99 and include 202 pieces. Not too much, once again, I can say about that. Then we have a $9.99 set, which will include 49 pieces. Then we have $39.99, which will include 479 pieces. Then two $69.99 sets, which will include 590 and then 527 pieces. And then we have the largest set here for this wave, which is going to retail for $149.99 and will include 1,901 pieces, which I've heard is going to be a very large and like cool sort of Lego set. It might be a D2C set. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or anything, so I didn't really put it on the list here, but there is potential for that, and I'm not sure what it's going to wind up being. We could get a Baxter building, which would definitely be like my number one choice for what I would like to see, because then hopefully we could get all of the Fantastic Four, but it might also be a little bit early to get that considering they've been announced to be putting that into the MCU, so Lego might want to wind up waiting and not really do like comic book versions at this point, but instead wait to do the MCU versions of them. Then the last two that we have here, the first one's going to retail for $34.99 and then include 369 pieces. Then we'll have one that is going to retail for $19.99. So not a lot I can say about most of these, but there are some speculations that you can make about a few of them and a bit of details that we have. I would say the reveal that I'm most excited for at the moment, without seeing any photos or really having any information, is going to be the CMF series. I think that's something to be very excited about, and it opens up the possibilities for so many new things as well. So very interested to find out more about that, but that's about everything I have to say for Lego Marvel. Now the next theme that we're going to be covering here is Lego Minecraft, and for this one we have 4 sets here, and we don't have any official set numbers, but they should be starting with 211 and then 2 other numbers which are a mystery at this point, but that's what it should wind up being. And for these sets here, to start off, we have the Ruined Portal, which is going to include 316 pieces, and this one I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm assuming it's going to be a Nether portal, and it'll just be one that's kind of broken, so I'll be interested to see what that turns out to look like and what minifigures we'll wind up receiving. Then we have the Tower to Heaven, which is going to include 565 pieces, and this one is definitely quite an interesting one. I honestly don't really know what this could wind up relating to within Minecraft. I don't really know of any sort of build that is like titled this, so there isn't too much I can go off of here. It could also be a mistake in the translation as well, because of course we're getting this information for the majority of these sets from foreign websites, so when you do the translation it can be a little bit like there can be a few difficulties there, and there might be a few mistakes in some of these, so that could also be the reasoning here, but I'm honestly not too sure what this could entail or what it's going to look like. And for a tower, I don't know how large it's going to wind up being with that piece count, so who knows what it will wind up being. Then the next one that we have is the Modern Treehouse, which will include 909 pieces, and this one I'm pretty interested in just to kind of see what they mean by like modern treehouse. I don't really know how you have a modern treehouse, but I'm sure it's going to be a very cool build because it has a really high piece count here, and I'm interested to see what sort of new skins we might possibly get in that set as well. And then the final set that we have here is going to apparently be a Minecraft dungeon set, and this one is going to be the Abomination of the Jungle and will include 489 pieces, and this is one I'm very excited for because of course the previous Minecraft dungeon set that we got was a super cool one, a very cool sort of redstone monster build, and I'm very excited to see this Abomination build as well because I've seen the design from the game and it just looks so cool, so I'm very interested to find out more about that and see the official reveal. But I would say overall, even though it's a smaller Minecraft wave here from what we can see, I'm still very excited about these sets. Moving on here, the next theme that we're going to be covering is Monkey Kid right here, which has honestly been pretty quiet for a while. I haven't seen too many people talking about Lego Monkey Kid or really like making theories about some of the upcoming sets, so I'm excited that we're getting some new ones here because I was a little bit worried. I didn't think the theme was going to be canceled or anything like that, but I just wasn't sure how large of a wave we were going to wind up receiving. But this one's honestly a pretty good size here. The first 2 sets that we have are sets number 80017 and then 80018. We don't have any info for those, so I can't really say too much about them. Then we have the Red Sun's Inferno Jet, which is definitely going to be an interesting one. It seems like we're getting a lot of repeats for the characters in Monkey Kid. I haven't watched the series yet, so I'm not sure how large of a roster of characters that they have at the moment, but feels a bit repetitive at this point, so I hope we get some other new characters as well. But I'm interested to see the jet build here. I'm sure that's going to be pretty cool. Then we have the White Dragon Horse Jet right here, which is going to be Probably a cool set. Once again, another jet here, so I'm not sure what it's going to kind of look like, but I'm sure it's going to be a pretty cool one. Then we have set number 80021. No info for that one, so there's not much I can say about that. Then we have the Spider Queen's Arachnoid base, and this one is going to be pretty interesting. I'm a very big fan of the Spider Queen minifigure. I really do like the design of that figure, so I'm interested to see if we get more of like maybe their minions in this set, considering it is their base. So I'm very interested to wind up seeing that and kind of see the designs and maybe new unique molds that we could get for some of those figures. So I'm excited for that one. And then the final set here is the Monkey Kids Team Quadcopter, and for this one it is actually the only set here on this entire video where we actually do have a photo for it, so I'll be sure to show that on screen. It was just a leaked photo that we got, but it was from an official source as well, so it's nothing that I can't show in the video. I actually did a previous video on the picture, but definitely something pretty cool. I'm not like, it's not something that really jumps out at me too much or something that I'll really like have an interest in picking up personally, but I still think and can appreciate the build that it has. And I would say overall this is a pretty good wave for Monkey Kid. Of course, we don't have a ton of information to go off of here, but still it definitely piques my interest. Alright, now we've made it to my favorite LEGO theme here, and this one is Ninjago here, and we have the Legacy sets and then the Season 15 sets as well. Now, I did do a separate video on these, so if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts, then you can go check out that video as well, which I'll be sure to link at the end of this video. But for now, let's get straight into it here, and the first three that we have here are going to be Legacy sets, and these include Kai's Slasher Bike, which is going to be a 4+ set, which will include 59 pieces. Then we have the Ultrasonic Assault Vehicle, which is going to include 729 pieces, and then the last one that we have for Legacy is going to be the Ninja Assault Ship Final Flight, which is going to include 147 pieces, which I have seen some people saying that could potentially be a piece error right there, because it seems a little bit odd that the original version of this set, at least what we think is the original version of this set, had like a very high piece count. It was a very large build that included like a giant Destiny's Bounty and then some other builds as well from the Possession season. So seems a little bit weird to have such a scaled down version, but it could also be like a 4+ like Destiny's Bounty set. Who really knows at this point? There isn't too much information to go off of here, but it definitely piques my interest quite a bit. And then of course the Ultrasonic one is going to be a new version of the Ultrasonic Raider, whether it be the first version or the stealth version from Day of the Departed wave. And then the 4+ set here, Kai's Slasher Bike. The translation here might just be a little bit off, because a lot of people are saying it's going to be a 4+ version of Kai's Blade Cycle, and that's what I was thinking as well, so that would definitely make the most sense there. And then if we move on to the Season 15 sets here, we have Lloyd's Hydro Robot, which is going to include 228 pieces. Then we have the Amphibian Submarine, which is going to include 356 pieces. Then we've got the Attack of the Fire Dragon, which is going to include 563 pieces. Then we've got the Water Dragon, which will include 737 pieces. Then the Temple of the Infinite Sea, which is going to include 1060 pieces. And then the last set that we have here is the Hydro Assault Ship, which is going to include 1159 pieces. And for that one, that final one that I mentioned, it's probably going to be, of course, a new version of the Destiny's Bounty as well, that is going to be able to hopefully be able to go underwater, because it seems like Season 15 is going to be a Nia-centric season and take place in the ocean underwater, so that's going to be definitely very interesting, and I'll be curious to see the build for that. And the temple as well, I'm very curious to see like the build for that, and also the villain designs as well. I'm really interested about those, because I hope that they kind of take a little bit of inspiration from some of the sea creatures from the Atlantis theme, because I feel like they have some really creative designs and I want to see something like that. Then the Attack of the Fire Dragon, which I think most people thought at first, including myself, that it was going to be a Legacy set, but it seems like it's going to be a new one for Season 15, so I'm not sure how they're going to work in a Fire Dragon into this new season, but it might wind up spotlighting Kai a little bit in this season, considering of course he is Nia's brother, so it would make a bit of sense there, but I'm just kind of curious how they'll work it in story-wise. Then we have the Amphibian Submarine, which is going to be pretty interesting. I'm assuming it's probably going to wind up being the villain submarine, so That's going to be pretty cool. The water dragon as well, which I skipped over, I'm very excited for, especially with that higher piece count as well. I'm really curious how that's going to wind up turning out, and if they'll use a molded head for the dragon or a brick built head. I know they've been leaning more towards brick built ones, so I would assume something like that. And then the smallest one, which is Lloyd's Hydro Robot, which I am excited for. I'm curious to see the ninjas outfits for this, if they're going to kind of be their ninja suits combined with like some scuba gear or something like that. That's what I kind of picture in my head, so I'll be interested to see how those all wind up turning out, but it's definitely a very exciting wave for Ninjago, and rightfully so, considering it is their 10th anniversary, so I'm very excited to see all of those sets. Now the next theme that we have here might be the biggest surprise here of this summer wave, and this is going to be an Overwatch set here. So I know most people probably thought that Overwatch was just done and that the theme was finished, but it seems like no, we're going to be getting another set here, and a very large one, surprisingly. It is going to be the Null Sector Titan, and this one is going to include 901 pieces. Now it is kind of unclear on whether or not this is going to be like a minifigure scale set, or if it's going to be like just a build of the Titan here, because I'm not sure if this Titan in the game has like a pilot in it where it's like an actual skin or something where you can make that into a minifigure. So I'll be very interested to see how that turns out, and also to see how this set winds up selling, because of course the Overwatch sets apparently did not sell very well. So I'll be interested to see why LEGO kind of chose to continue this, or maybe this set will wind up getting canceled. Who knows? There's a ton of possibilities here, but I am interested to see what the design turns out to look like. Now the next theme that we have here might be the biggest surprise here of this summer wave, and this is going to be an Overwatch set here. So I know most people probably thought that Overwatch was just done and that the theme was finished, but it seems like no, we're going to be getting another set here, and a very large one, surprisingly. It is going to be the Null Sector Titan, and this one is going to include 901 pieces. Now it is kind of unclear on whether or not this is going to be like a minifigure scale set, or if it's going to be like just a build of the Titan here, because I'm not sure if this Titan in the game has like a pilot in it where it's like an actual skin or something where you can make that into a minifigure. So I'll be very interested to see how that turns out, and also to see how this set winds up selling, because of course the Overwatch sets apparently did not sell very well. So I'll be interested to see why LEGO kind of chose to continue this, or maybe this set will wind up getting canceled. Who knows? There's a ton of possibilities here, but I am interested to see what the design turns out to look like. Alright, now the next theme that we're going to be covering here is Speed Champions, and for this one, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce some of the names of these cars, or specifically, I suppose, only the first one, then the rest I can say, but the first one's going to include 280 pieces, and be sure to let me know down below as well if you know the pronunciation for that, because I will try to learn in the future if I ever have to cover that set in some sort of video. But then, the next one that we have is Toyota right there, and that will include 299 pieces. Then we have the McLaren, which is going to include 263 pieces. Then we've got a Chevrolet, which is going to include 512 pieces. And then we have the Dodge as the final one here, which is going to include 627 pieces. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with all of you. I'm not really a car person unless it's like a Batmobile or like a superhero themed car, Ninjago. I just don't have too much of an interest in it. I can definitely really appreciate the builds, and if I ever plan on building a city, I'll definitely want to pick some of them up because they'll obviously fit in a little bit more naturally, but I think that these ones sound pretty interesting. I'm curious to see the designs of them and also the sizes as well, especially of the Dodge and the Chevrolet, since they're the two largest ones, so I'm interested to see what these are going to turn out to look like, but I'm sure it's going to be a pretty good wave for Speed Champions. Alright, now we have another of the largest waves here for summer of 2021. There are a ton to go over here for LEGO Star Wars. I mean, it is honestly an overwhelming amount, but this is actually the theme that we have like the most information to go on, because we have minifigures, we have set names, we have a ton of info for these, so I'm very excited to cover it here. It's just that it's going to be a lot, so buckle in here. This is probably going to be one of the largest sections of the video, which is why I wanted to split it up by timestamps so that it's easy to skip ahead to this, but nonetheless, let's get started here. The first one is going to be an Advent advent calendar, which is going to retail for $39.99 and then include 335 pieces. And I am actually very excited for this, and I normally wouldn't say anything about the advent calendar, but I really would love to see a Yoda and a Stormtrooper in the Christmas sweaters, because I know we got those as plush versions, so I think it would be really cool to get those in this advent calendar to kind of complete the 4 of them, because we already have Darth Vader and Poe Dameron, so it would be cool to see them expand that as well. So I'm very interested to see that when it's eventually revealed. Then the next one that we have here, just jumping to a very highly priced set, is going to be a UCS R2-D2, and this one's going to retail for $199.99 here, and this one is pretty exciting. I can't say for myself personally, I don't really collect these larger scale droids, but I'm sure people are going to be excited to have a new version of R2-D2 here, and I'm sure it's going to be a very nice build. Then the next one that we've got is possibly a UCS Republic gunship. You can see I have a question mark next to it because that isn't confirmed, but it's like the most likely, most liked guess for what this could wind up being, and that's going to retail for $349.99. Then the next one that we have here is one of the sets that I am most excited for, and this one is Mandalore Throne and Vault, and this is going to include an Ahsoka and Maul minifigure, and then we are going to have this one retail for $19.99 and include 147 pieces, and I'm very excited for this because I really want an Ahsoka minifigure, but this is going to be a super cheap way to be able to get her, and hopefully it's the same version that came in the previous set that she was just released in, because I wasn't a huge fan of that set. Don't get me wrong, the build was fine for it, but I'm excited for this one because we're gonna get like 2 of my favorite characters from Star Wars. I mean, they're not like my number 1 favorites, but they're definitely up there for me, and they're both so cool, so I'm very excited for both of them. Then we're going to be getting an Imperial Troop Transport, which is going to include 2 Stormtroopers, Grief Karga, and then we're going to get a Yellow Mortar Trooper, and then this is going to retail for $39.99 and then include 478 pieces. Of course, this will be a Mandalorian set right here, and I think that that's pretty cool that we're going to be getting that, so I'm interested to see what that turns out like. Then we're going to be getting a new Slave One, and this one's going to include Han Solo and Boba Fett, of course, and will retail for $49.99 and include 592 pieces, and I've heard this one is slightly larger than the one that was included in the Cloud City set, but it is smaller than the anniversary one, of course, with the piece count there. But I think this one's going to be interesting, a nice middle ground, I suppose, which is kind of what a lot of these recent Star Wars sets have been, especially the previous wave with the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. I think those were a little bit more scaled down and more accessible to new fans as well, so I think that's really great to see, and I'll be interested to see the design of that. Then we're going to be getting a UCS Death Star, potentially, that is what the guess is here, or an AT-AT as well, and this will retail for $799.99 and is potentially, there are theories going around that's going to be the new largest Lego set of all time, so I'll be interested to see what that winds up being, so very interesting there for sure. Then the next one here is going to be a Bad Batch shuttle, which is going to include all 5 members of the Bad Batch, which include Crosshair, Wrecker, Tech, Hunter, and Echo, and that's going to retail for $99.99 and include 969 pieces. Then the next one here is probably the one I'm most excited for, and this is going to be Moff Gideon's light cruiser here, and this is going to include the Mandalorian, of course, in his Beskar armor from 2021, so that's very exciting that we have another set with that. Then we're going to be getting the Child, aka Grogu, as well, so that's very exciting. Then we'll be getting Cara Dune. Also in the set, we'll be getting Fennec, apparently Moff Gideon, of course, and then apparently 2 Dark Troopers in the set as well. And I did see some people listing it to include Bo-Katan in the set. Now, the only thing is, a few of them don't list Bo-Katan, and then we do see Bo-Katan included in the next set that I'm going to talk about. So I put a question mark next to that because it isn't one that I can really confirm, but it seems like she could be included, or she could just be in the other set as well. So this one's going to retail for $159.99 as well. I wanted to mention that too, a very expensive one, but I think it's going to be worth it, and will probably pair up pretty well with the, of course, the Razor Crest as well, so I'm really excited to see both of those together. Then the next one that we have is going to be the Mandalorian Starfighter, which will include Bo-Katan, as I said, included in this set, so that's why I kind of think that's probably why she's not going going to be in Moff Gideon's light cruiser, and that might have just been a mistake in some of the posts that I saw on Instagram. Then we have Gar Saxon with their helmet on, and then we have a Mandalorian Royalist or a Blue Standard Mandalorian. I saw it listed as either one here. I'm not sure how much of a difference there is between these two, but it's going to be one or the other, I would say. And this one's rumored to be a Walmart exclusive and is going to be also retailing for $59.99, so I would say pretty reasonable there, considering you're getting a very highly desirable character in Bo-Katan and probably going to go along with a really cool build as well. Then the next set here is the one that we have the least information on. It's set number 75319. It's going to retail for $29.99, and we have no other info other than that. Then we've got the Darth Vader's Meditation Chamber, which is going to be an 18 plus set and is going to include a Stormtrooper, Darth Vader, and then Admiral Piet. So pretty interesting there. I'm very curious to see the size of this meditation chamber, how large it's going to be. I assume very large because it's an 18 plus set, so that's bound to be very interesting, and I really hope it's the new Darth Vader included in the set. I would assume it would be, because it's probably going to be a pretty pricey set, I would assume, and hopefully he has that new arm printing on him, and maybe even some other updates as well, who knows. And then the last set here is going to be the May 4th promo, and this is going to be a Tatooine homestead, so pretty interesting there. I wanted to throw that in there because I'm sure fans are very interested in that. And yeah, I'd say it's a very good wave for Star Wars. I mean, look at how much you're going to be getting there. It's honestly an overwhelming amount. And this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this video, because it felt like there was so much Star Wars news and I just couldn't find everything in one place. So I was like, I should just make a video putting it all in one place here with everything else as well. So yeah, definitely a really great wave to look forward to. Alright, next up here we have the Lego Super Mario theme, and the first set that we have here is going to be the starter set and will retail for $59.99 and then include 280 pieces. And this one, of course, I did make a separate video on because the big theory is that Luigi is going to be the new character that you're going to get in this set, and that would definitely be very exciting. And then maybe it open up for possibilities of like 2-player features with the game that you can play with these sets, so I think that would be very exciting. Then the next one that we have here is set number 71388, which is going to retail for $29.99 and include 251 pieces. Then we've got set number 71389, which is going to retail for $39.99 and include 484 pieces. Then we've got set number 71390, which is going to retail for $69.99 and include 862 pieces, and then we'll be getting set number 71391, which is going to retail for $99.99 and include 1,152 pieces. And I don't have too many theories to go about with these ones because, of course, we don't have too much info to go off of here, but if I were to take some guesses, I would assume we're going to get a set that's going to feature one of Bowser's Koopalings in it, because, of course, we've gotten 2 of them in the previous wave, so I would assume they're going to keep up the tradition of giving us a new one, and I would assume that will wind up being in the $69.99 set. And then for the $100 set, I'm going to assume it's going to be some sort of castle boss battle sort of build, so I think that could be cool. And I also mentioned this in my separate video, I would love to see them sort of like branch out to do other Mario series like Mario Kart, Mario Galaxy. I think that could be really cool to see. I don't know if it would happen this soon, but it would still be very cool to wind up seeing at some point, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Then the next 2 sets that we have here are both going to be power-up packs, so they're both going to retail for $9.99, and then one will include 11 pieces and the other with 13, and I'm not too sure what I would really want to see here for the new suits. I assume they're going to relate to Luigi, so I'm not sure what we could wind up seeing, but I'm sure they're going to be pretty cool. And then the next item here is going to be the Character Pack Series 3, which of course will retail for the standard $4.99 and include 24 pieces in each pack, so pretty exciting there. Of course, there's so many different Mario mobs that you can sort of put into these packs, so I'm sure we're going to see some really cool new designs. And then the final set that we have here is listed under the Leaf theme, which is just Nintendo in general, but most people are making the theory, because it is retailing for $169.99, that this is going to be a minifigure scale Mario set. Of course, people have been wanting this since the theme was announced, so I think this would be the perfect opportunity to wind up doing that. And I think you could do like Peach's castle or something of that sort. I think it would just be super cool to wind up seeing. So that's what I'm hoping for. But this one, of course, that's just a theory, so there isn't anything really backing that up. But I really have my fingers crossed for that, because I think it would be a super cool addition to the Mario theme. And or it could also wind up being a Nintendo Switch build, because of course we got the previous NES build, and we could wind up getting a Nintendo Switch. I don't know if that would wind up happening, because maybe the price is a little bit too low to wind up doing that, even though the Switch is quite a bit smaller than the NES, I would say. So I'm not too sure, just throwing out another theory there, but it definitely will be something super cool. Alright, the next theme that we've got here is from Lego Vidyio, and for this one we just have set numbers here and then the prices and pieces, so there isn't too much to say here, but I'm going to go through all of them nonetheless. We have set number 43108, and that goes all the way down to 43115, so I'm not going to say each of them, but they're going to retail for $4.99, including 12 pieces. Then we're going to have two $20 sets with 86 and 89 pieces. Then we're going to get two $30 sets, which will include 344 pieces, and then 387 pieces. Then we'll have a $49.99 set, which will include 514 pieces. Then we've got a $60 set, which is going to include 615 pieces. And then the last one that we have here is going to be a $99.99 set, which will include 996 pieces, making it the largest one for this wave. And some very exciting stuff there. Of course, we've seen one design from Vidyio, which is that partying llama minifigures, so I'm very interested to see how they kind of expand upon that and what builds we're going to see, what other figures we could wind up receiving. So there's a ton of possibilities with Vidyio. I've made a few videos on the theme Vidyio, and there's quite a bit to say about it, so if you want to check those out, you can be sure to take a look at my channel. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for this new wave. Alright, and now that's going to conclude this video covering every single LEGO Summer 2021 set that we have had revealed thus far. Of course, this isn't going to be a completely comprehensive video covering every single set, because of course we don't have all of the info for every single set and we don't know about all of them that are going to be releasing, but I'd say this is a pretty good comprehensive video here, because we have over 120 sets in this video, and that is quite a bit. But I wanted to put it all into one video so that if you were interested in one particular theme, you could just find it in this video. If you're like, oh, I want to look at Ninjago, and then you realize, oh, I also want to look at like Speed Champions, then you can just jump back and forth through the video. You don't have to look for a separate video, even though I still might do a few extra separate videos on some other ones if I have some other things to talk about in a more in-depth way. But for now, I'd say that's about all I have to say for this. I'm very excited for summer 2021 LEGO. There is so much to look forward to, and there's going to be a ton to cover in the future once we get official reveals for these with photos and all of the information. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that on the channel, and the best way to do so is of course to subscribe and also leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. I would highly appreciate that. So thank you so much. I will see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.